Hello, and welcome to another episode of Taylor Talks Comics. Today I have an overview of Norse mythology by Neil Gaiman, P. Craig Russell, and a bunch of others. Stay tuned. Alright, this is this beautiful Norse mythology hardcover in a slipcase that I'm going to show off today. But first, if you're watching this on the Taylor Talks Comics channel or the Organic Price Books channel, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, comment down below. No matter where you're commenting, I'll be sure to reply to your comments and talk to you guys because I love talking comics. Also, if you're shopping with Organic Price Books, which you should be, best place to buy your comics and graphic novels, be sure to use my promo code. If you want to save $2 off of any order, just type in the promo code Taylor Talks Comics, all one word, Taylor Talks Comics. If you plan on ordering 4 or more books, you're going to want to use my other promo code, which is TTC Ship It Together. That's all one word, TTC Ship It Together. All right, so this is an official review for OrganicPriceBooks.com, and as for Norse mythology. So, let's just go and pull it out here. So I want to show off this beautiful slipcase first. So the slipcase is done with all brand new artwork from David Mack. As you can see, his signature right there. And it's absolutely brilliant. Painted. There's like a bunch of spot gloss all over it. You have to hold this thing in your hands to really, truly admire all of the amazing stuff in it. You can kind of see the spot gloss glitter right there, but this white is a pure white spot gloss that's coming from Thor's hammer, the lightning bolt right there, as he stands on Mjolnir itself. The top just has some more painted beauty from David Mack, as well as the bottom. The inside of the slipcase is just plain white. The back is this awesome image of a giant cat hanging out with Thor. And then you get some, the serpent there. It's scripted over here on the top. So the slipcase is absolutely beautiful. Really, really great work. And then you get to the book. And the book itself looks like this very fancy religious tome, which is very fitting since we are covering Norse mythology, which is, I guess, religious in its mythological nature. But yeah, this I don't know if you can see, but it's like this faux leather on the book, and then there's all the names that are involved. So you have Neil Gaiman wrote the actual first prose novel that this is based on. P. Craig Russell is the one that adapted it for the comics. He's the guy that's scripting it and writing it for the comics, and also does the art on 2 of the stories. And then these are all the great artists that join him in the other stories. Mike Mignola, Jerry Ordway, David Rubin, Piotr Kowalski, Jill Thompson, Mark Buckingham, Gabriel Hernandez of Volta. I mean, there's Colleen Doran, this Dave Stewart on colors. So many great artists, a lot of them that have worked with Dark Horse in the past, who is the publisher for this book. Here's the spine. You have Gaiman Russell up here, with some Norse inscriptures and symbols, and then Norse mythology, and the back is just blank. But we're not done, because the pages on the edges are all gilded. Look how beautiful it is. It's a rainbow, like the Rainbow Bridge. Rainbows are very synonymous with Norse mythology, so how fitting, right? It does come with a ribbon. I'm going to try to pull that out. And the ribbon itself is adorned with kind of this pattern of Norse texture, and it's shiny in its own right. So really a beautiful, amazing presentation. One that really makes you, when you have this book, feel like you're holding something important that you're going to want to read. So let's dive in, shall we? So the end papers here are this bluish color. And we got the title page here. We have a great table of contents. Over here you can see story and words by Neil Gaiman, scripts and layouts by P. Craig Russell, letters by Galen Shulman, slipcase art by David Mack. And then they list every story that's in the book, and then who's the artist working on it. Because all the scripts and layouts and lettering, none of that changes for any of the stories, but the art does. So the art and colors is what's credited on the table of contents page over here. Here's all the production team that worked on this book. And then we get the prologue, Neil Gaiman's Norse Mythology. P. Craig Russell does the first story and the last story. So he kind of kicks it off and then closes the chapter on it. Kind of reminded me of Seven Soldiers when J.H. Williams did the first and last chapter of that. But yeah, P. Craig Russell, if you're not familiar, has this... If you like Mike Mignola's art, you're going to like P. Craig Russell. I think P. Craig Russell might predate Mignola, but they're both kind of coming up on top in the comic book industry around the same time. And they both carry a similar style with them, where they kind of use like a flat color mixed with spotting of the blacks and whatnot. So what is this Norse mythology book? Like I said, it's based off the prose novel by Neil Gaiman. A similar treatment of this book, where the presentation, the Gilded Pages, the slipcase, all that jazz, was given to Neil Gaiman's American Gods, which was another comic book that adapted from a Neil Gaiman prose work. But this is taking all the Norse mythology that you might be familiar with from things such as, here's Mike Mignola's art right here. Might be familiar with things such as, like, I don't know, Marvel's Thor, dealt with a lot of Norse mythology. But this is taking more of an earnest approach. This is Jerry Ordway, who has not lost a step at all when he was drawing this, because he's been around for a very, very long time and his art is still amazing. But yes, so this is taking a much more earnest approach to the mythological stories of Norse mythology. When Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, Larry Lieber, et al. At Marvel were taking Norse mythology and turning it into like the Thor superhero that we know, they took a lot of liberties and changed a lot of things to make it more of a superhero comic, and shed a lot of the uglier or even weirder pieces of Norse mythology that wouldn't really read the best, I guess, in a superhero comic in the 60s, written for like the middle school to college age demographic. But this, again, is earnest. This is taking all of the warts and all the things that we've ever read about Norse mythology, and putting it in there. And this was actually like an amazing read. One of my favorite reads of the year so far. When I got this, I was kind of expecting it to be a little bit more dense. I was expecting this to be like a heavy read that's like deep in this mythological nature. Maybe like even like Shakespearean in nature as a read, because with like the heavy purple prose dialogue and kind of one that you have to really pay attention to every single page or you're going to get lost. And I was actually pretty wrong. This actually reads as smoothly and fast-paced and rapid as like the old Tales of Asgard in the Jack Kirby Thor era, which I talked about that on a video where I cover the first Silver Age volume of Marvel's Thor. So if you want to go check that out. But the Tales of Asgard were these backup strips in the early parts of the Thor run by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. This is David Rubin's artwork, who is one of my favorite artists. Every time I read a David Rubin comic, I'm like, I need more comics by that guy. He's just amazing. But yeah, so they had these backup strips called Tales of Asgard, where Kirby was able to take more from these Norse mythology stories and kind of develop them and help him flesh out what he was building for the Asgard of Marvel comics. But they're like these fast-paced, like 4 to 6 page strips, and told this nice, succinct story. This kind of reads similar to that in nature, because they are kind of fast-paced stories. They're just like folk tales. Like they'll have like this folk tale nature to them, to where it's like, but you're presented with a problem in the beginning, and by the end it wraps it up. Not in a happy ending, but wraps it up in a way that's like This is Jill Thompson's artwork, by the way, who's always a treat to read her artwork. Wraps it in a way that tells you why things are the way they are, either in the world or in Norse mythology in the future. It'll be kind of like, oh, so that's why Thor, or that's how Thor got his hammer, or that's how Loki's child turned out to be what it was. I don't want to spoil that, but you might know these stories because they're thousands of years old. So they're very like fast-paced and succinct. And some people will say, like, I don't like when art changes throughout a comic, which I'm usually the same case. If it's like a superhero story that's like an ongoing 20-issue run, you don't want the art to change from issue to issue. But this is a lot different of a presentation because it is all these short stories. It's not like telling one full story in succession where it's like, this is chapter 1, and it leads into chapter 2, and that leads into chapter... They're all kind of like folk stories taking place in this one area of the world, or one realm, I guess, of the universe. So the fact that the art changes based on story isn't jarring, and it's actually kind of fun, because you're reading like a whole new story each time you get to a new artist. And so like I said, it's faster paced than I thought it was. I thought it was going to be dense. It's not at all. It's also not as heavy as I thought. There's a lot of levity to the stories, and even humor, which is one thing I've since discovered. I've not read the prose novel by Neil Gaiman, but I heard that it's pretty humorous, which is in nature, which you wouldn't expect. So one of the reasons why I wanted to try this out was because I'm doing a deep dive into Thor, the Marvel character, this year. I'm doing kind of a big readathon of Thor, reading multiple stories, multiple eras, Silver Age, modern, blah, blah, blah. But I wanted to read the actual Norse mythology to kind of implant in my brain some seeds to, like, these are what the stories that they're pulling from for the Marvel stories. I don't know if these are exactly representative of the actual Norse stories. That was the goal in mind. If there's some differences or liberties they've taken, let me know in the comments, because I'm not a Norse mythology expert. All I can tell you is these were super fun comics to read, and I can't recommend this enough. I blasted through this in just a couple days, so like I said, it is a quick read. It's not dense at all, and it's quite humorous. There's a lot of humor involved, which is what I was trying to say, was that I've heard the prose novel was. So that's one reason why I wanted to try this out. Another reason was because Neil Gaiman is a writer that I struggle with. I hate to admit this publicly on air, so forgive me, but I'm not the biggest fan of Sandman. I've tried reading Sandman like 5 times in my life. My most recent try, I read all the way through issue 30, or 32. Issue 32. Here's Gabriel Hernandez Volta, amazing artist. And it just, I don't know if Sandman's just not for me. It's not that I don't like dense or heavy intellectual type comics. Alan Moore is my favorite writer of all time, and he can definitely get into those weeds, the similar weeds. I just don't know if his writing style's for me, or I don't know what it is. So I wanted to try Neil Gaiman other comics to give it a shot to see if it's a Neil Gaiman thing for me, or if it's just Sandman isn't my thing. This wasn't the best example, I will say, because this is just adapted from a Neil Gaiman prose novel. I don't know how much this dialogue and writing style that P. Craig Russell is adapting in these scripts mirrors what you get with that prose novel, but it does make me want to try that prose novel, I will say, which is different for me. I'm not a big prose novel guy. So if you've read this and you've read the prose novel, let me know in the comments how close they are in nature, in style, I guess, of writing. Because I imagine the prose novel is, I feel like, just as many pages, or not, if not more. So I'm assuming there's more meat on the bone with the prose novel than there is with this. So I understand that. But as far as the writing style goes and the story pacing, let me know in the comments if that is similar or not. Here's more David Rubin artwork. So the artwork throughout the entire book is absolutely amazing. P. Craig Russell really works with all these different artists in their style to where he really lets their style sing on the page. It doesn't get in their way as a writer at all, as he's adapting the scripts. And it's almost as if you're in a Norse town or something, and you're sitting at the town center in these different storytellers are taking the floor to tell the different stories. Is almost how it reads with the different art styles. As you can imagine, back in the day, it's kind of how telling stories worked. But really, really fun read. One of my favorite reads of the year. I can't recommend this enough. And the presentation alone makes it worth it, in my opinion. And I will say also, it ends on a great chapter, because when you get to, I'm trying to find it here. Oh, here it is. Okay. So P. Craig Russell ends it with Ragnarok, which, as you can imagine, you're telling a Norse mythology story, no better way than to tell Ragnarok, right? As the ending, because that is supposed to be the ending of the Norse gods and everything else. If you're only familiar with Norse mythology via Marvel Comics, Ragnarok happens every 6 or 7 years in the comics, because in real time, comic timeline, I don't know how often that would be, probably even less. But it happens quite often. It's almost written as a way to do a reset of the character of Thor and begin a new launching pad for him. But Ragnarok's supposed to be the end of the world, is what it's supposed to be. This chapter here is one of my favorite representations of Ragnarok, or the end of the world. Like, it is harrowing, it is apocalyptic in nature, in scope. It feels like the end of the freaking world, the way that Pete Craig Russell and his art and his storytelling tell the story of Ragnarok here. And I just want to do a quick flip through so you can enjoy it on your own. But it is brilliant, as far as like apocalyptic, feeling like the end of the universe kind of thing. Definitely a climactic battle that pays dividends to everything you read before. And then it ends as it ends. But this is the cover gallery, so these are the extras. I always like to show off how much of the book is in extras. So the extras make up like this portion of the book, so there's quite a bit. This is the actual story and content itself. But the extras, you get covers, and then you get like character designs and whatnot. So it appears to me that each issue, as this is coming out in singles, had a different variant cover by David Mack. Bill Sienkiewicz did a variant cover here, which Bill Sienkiewicz is always amazing. I mean, that I would love to have this piece on my wall. Just the usage of the white lightning, amazing stuff. And then starting with issue 2, it was P. Craig Russell did a cover, and then David Mack did a cover. So if you love the David Mack artwork on the slipcase and you're trying to figure out why he wasn't in the interiors of this, he is. It's just on the covers in the back. So that's what David Mack had to do with the original story piece. And I love that there are different interpretations of each story too, because each issue or each chapter was telling a totally different story. So it's kind of like P. Craig Russell's like, all right, David Mack, this story is about insert here. And then they did their own little interpretations of what was important to them in that story or how they would interpret it. And David Mack's like collage style painting is always brilliant and fun to read. But then P. Craig Russell's, I hate to keep comparing him, but it's such a Mike Mignola style that he has. There's the slipcase. So I guess that wasn't a new art piece there. Was that part. But I believe the other side was. I don't know. I haven't seen it in here. So this was done, previously released in, I think, 3 standard size hardcovers is how it was previously released. And in single issues. But this is like all in one. All of the Norse mythology comics in one volume. And then here's the sketchbook in the back where P. Craig Russell is really working on his style. You have David Rubin working out his stuff. And you do have some notes here by the artist, which is always great. Here's some penciled pages. Some other character designs. So really all the extras you'd want in the back of a book. I mean, even script notes coming out. Great piece by David Rubin. And not in color. David Rubin does his own coloring too, by the way. Which is important to note. But his black and white artwork would read amazingly as well. I love this too, with like the background in color, but the rest in black and white. Yeah. And here's other books you can read by David. The Neil Gaiman Library. You have the American Gods. You have the Neil Gaiman Library editions that are coming out. This kind of makes me want to try some of those to see if I'd enjoy those in their shorter storytelling in nature. But this has been Norse Mythology, the complete Norse Mythology in the Slipcase edition, brought to you by OrganicPriceBooks.com. Remember to use those promo codes. Taylor Talks Comics, all one word. That's going to save you $2 off of your order. If you're ordering 4 or more books, use TTC, ship it together. Please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below with anything to do with this book or anything to do with the comics, and I will reply to you. Have a great day.